Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly roundup session. In weekly roundup session, we cover the most important news of the last week. My name is Anuj, and I will be taking this session. So let's begin this session. So in today's session, we will be covering 6 main news and 8 also in news. So in main news, we will be briefly covering about the central government implementation of 4 new labor codes. In this, we will be learning about those labor codes and about their significance. In second main news, we will be looking at the Australia, which has become the first country to ban the social media for the children under the age of 16 years. In the third main news, we will be learning about the Chief Justice of India as well as the other Supreme Court judges. In fourth main news, we will be learning about the G20 Summit, which has recently been concluded in South Africa. In fourth main news, we will be covering this, and in the fifth main news, we will be covering about the volcanic eruption that has taken place in Ethiopia and its consequences on India as well. As well as in the sixth news, we will be covering about the 30th conference of the parties which has been concluded recently in Belém, Brazil. Then we will be covering 8 also in news, also known as quick update. So that is a brief about today's session. Let us begin the today's session. So the first news for today is that the central government has implemented the 4 new labor codes. So when you will be reading about these labor codes, you have to learn them thoroughly, because we have seen that there was a previous year question directly based on them, as well as they can be used in different answers where you are writing about dignity of labor, you are writing about inclusive growth, and it is important for GS2, GS3, GS4 as well. Basically, when we talk about its mapping, it is related to GS3, which talks about changes in industrial policy and their effect on the industrial growth. So let us begin with the discussion. So we have briefly discussed the context. Let us go through the context again. So these labor code are being implemented from the last week. Before moving further, let us understand about the labor laws or the subject labor. Please note that labor is a subject in the concurrent list. What does that mean? It means that the center as well as the state can make laws for the laborers in India. So basically, by these 4 laws, the central government has rationalized the 29 labor laws which was there previously. What it will do, what is the aim of it, what are the significance of it, that we have to learn. What are the provision, what are the merit, what are the demerit of it, that also we have to look upon. So basically, it aims for ease of doing business in India. As well as it talk about the welfare of the workers. So that is the basic aim of these laws. Suppose I have a company and I want to establish a company somewhere in India. So it will be very difficult for me if there are 29 laws which are running there in that. So it will become very cumbersome for me that I have to look on to all the labor laws. Now, as these labor laws are rationalized and now there are only 4 labor laws or 4 labor code instead of 29 labor laws, it will be easy for me to establish the company or establishment in the country. Okay, and it will also be beneficial for the workers, as they will be knowing about their right and what are their right through these codes. Okay, it is very important. It is important in general as well, and it is important for UPSC examination as well. We will look into the PYQ before understanding about this. So the PYQ is from 2024 mains. Let us read that PYQ, what it was and what was the need that has to be written in that answer. So the question in 2024 was that discuss the merit and demerit of the 4 labor codes in the context of labor market reforms in India, and what has been the progress so far in this regard. So at that time, these labor codes was there, but they were not implemented. So that was a question in 2024 mains. And after looking at this question, let us discuss all the labor codes which are being implemented. So basically, 4 labor laws will be implemented, and these are Code on Wages, Industrial Relation Code 2020, Code on Social Security, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code of 2020. So these are the 4 labor codes. You should know their name, what are their provision, and how they will be beneficial for the economy as well as the welfare of the workers. Let us look into the laws which have been subsumed under it. So basically, under Code on Wages 2019, the 4 code or 4 labor laws has been subsumed. These are the 4 labor laws which has been subsumed. Those are Payment of Wages Act 1936, Minimum Wages Act of 1948, Payment of Bonus Act of 1965, and Equal Remuneration Act of 1976. Now let us look into the provision of it. First of all, it established a statutory right for minimum wages. So now there has to be minimum wages all across the India, whether someone is working in the organized sector or he or she is working in the unorganized sector. So when these codes were formed in 2019 and 20, there was talks and there was a recommendation of 375 rupees per day. I think government will look upon it and it will establish a minimum labor or minimum wage for the labor. That is the first provision. Secondly, employers shall not discriminate on the basis of gender, including transgender identity in recruiting. Whenever you are reading the provision, just ponder upon the significance of those provisions as well. First of all, if we talk about minimum wages, it will lead to less exploitations of workers. It will provide an economic security to the workers. Okay, when we talk about that employers shall not discriminate, it will lead to inclusivity. It will lead to inclusivity in the working force. Thirdly, it's talk about that the provision are there for timely payment. That's what it has talked about, that payment of the workers should be on the timely basis. Now coming to the second, it talk about the industrial relations. Okay, and it has subsumed 3 labor act, which are Trade Union Act of 1926, Industrial Employment Act of 1946, and Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. Okay, and it has given provisions like fixed term employment. So please learn about this fixed term employment. What is the meaning of fixed term employment? And it is different from permanent employment. So basically, an employer can keep a worker for a fixed term. That can be for 1 year, that can be for 2 years. And on those workers, there should be other benefits as well, like gratuity eligibility for them is for 1 year. If you are reading newspaper, you might have learned about this gratuity. For normal permanent employee, it is still 5 years. Don't get confused here. For permanent employees, it is still for 5 years, the gratuity period, but for the fixed term employment or the fixed term employees, it will be for 1 year. Okay. Secondly, there is higher threshold for the layoff. Previously, the layoff or the threshold was for that a workers or the working condition where 100 workers was working. So if employer want to lay off, if a company has more than 100, they have to take permission from the government. But now that condition for the minimum workers in that company is raised to 300 workers. So there is lot of debate around this provision. And we have read the PYQ. It has also asked about demerits. So it can lead to hire and fire policy. That means the employer now has more authority to fire them without taking the permission from the government. There is a debate about this provision that it can lead to hire and fire policy in the companies. Okay. Thirdly, it has expanded the workers definition. Now it covers sale, promotion staff, generalist, as well as the supervisory employees earning up to 18,000 per month. Okay, now this can lead to inclusion as well as their definition has been broadened. Now coming to the third labor code, that is Code on Social Security. I think all of you might be using Uber, Ola, Zomato and other platform. So basically in this code, it has talked about that all workers, including gig and the platform workers. Many states have brought separate act for gig and platform workers, such as Rajasthan, Karnataka and other state as well. Okay, they have already brought a bill or act to include workers who are working in gig and the platform workers. So it talk about social security for them. And for social security funds, funds will be provided by the central government, state government, as well as the platform aggregators. And who are the platform aggregator here? Those are the platform on which these workers are working. For example, Zomato. Suppose Zomato is earning 100 rupees. So at least 2 to 3 rupees or 1 rupee he has to keep for the welfare of the workers. It has been mandated now. Secondly, it has expanded the cover of ESIC. Before its expansion or it was there in the notified area only. Now it has been expanded to Pan India. So this is the second provision under it. Lastly, it talks about Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code of 2020. There are provisions under it, such as there should be mandatory health checkup of the employees whose age is more than 40 years. So it will be beneficial for the workers as well for the employers as well, because they will be increase in the productivity. Lastly, extension of the hazardous work can be extended. Government can extend these code provision to any establishment even with the one employee. So there are some works which are considered as hazardous. In those companies, even if one worker is working, these provision can be extended. Okay, you might be listening or you might be reading a lot about the change in the salary. So it has mandated that the basic pay should be 50% of the total salary. What does it mean? That the remaining 50% salary should be provided for the long-term futures. So basically it can lead to reduction in the salaries or the in-hand salaries of the workers in the short terms. But in the long term, it will benefit them as it will provide them with the social security. So these are the basic provision under these 4 codes. You have to know and you have to write their significance as well. what are their aim, how it will benefit, or it will demerit, what are their demerits as well. You should be very clear, because it is very important for your examination for not only paper 3 but also paper 4. When you will be talking about dignity of labor. Paper 2, when you will be talking about governance measures. Okay, so it is important for your papers, and you can note these provision in your answers when you will be talking about formalization of workforce, when you will be talking about inclusive growth. So these are the provision where you can write them. Okay, so this was all about the provisions of the labor code. Let us move to the PYQ. One PYQ of mains we have already talked about. Let us look into the PYQ of the prelims. It was there in 2022. And what is the question? The question is, in India, which one of the following compiles information on industrial dispute closure, retrenchment and layoff in factories employing workers? And the option are Central Statistics Office, B, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, C, Labor Bureau, D, National Technical Manpower Information System. So why UPSC exam is difficult? It is because the option given in the prelims examinations are very relevant. So they are there to confuse you. You should have a clear mind as well as clarity on the basic to get the answer correct in prelims examination. Answer for this question is Labor Bureau. This was all about the first news. Let us move to the second news for today. Second news is that Australia to become the first country to ban social media for children under the 16 years. Okay, so Australia from 10th of December, they will ban social media for the children. It is a major development, and when you are reading about this, you should look into what will be its implications on India as well. How our policies are there to protect children from social media. The rise in the questions, especially in mains, is there related to social media. Let us look into the PYQ first. Okay. So there are two PYQ. So first of all, let us look into the PYQ. First PYQ is from mains 2023 paper 1, that is from Indian society. And the question is, child cuddling is now being replaced by mobile phones. Discuss the impact on the socialization of children. If you have a child in your home, you might be seeing the child is more attracted to the screen than the socialization with the members. Even the family members are very busy now and they have less time, so it is very feasible for them to provide the social media or screens to them. Now there is a new term, that is iPad babies. That means the babies have their separate iPads so that they don't disturb the other family members. So this question is about that. That child cuddling here is not in literal sense. You can understand by the second part. It is talking about socialization of children and how children's socialization is more with the screens and less with the humans. Okay. This is the core demand of the question. Then you have to write accordingly. The second question is, social media is triggering fear of missing out, FOMO, commonly known as in the Gen Z terms, among the youth, precipitating loneliness and the depression. So whenever you are going to write your essay paper, that is basically on the first day of your mains examination, you should not be that today I will only write about essay or the philosophies. You have to include your topics as well as the knowledge from the other subject as well. So you will be writing about social media here and how it is triggering loneliness and depression due to fear of missing out. Okay. Why children are using so much of mobile phones? You should be very clear. What are the reason behind it? First of all, the algorithms in the social media. They cater to very specific need. That's why it becomes very difficult to move away from the reels. It might be children, it might be you, it might be your parents. It is very difficult to move away from reels. Second is the instant gratification. The enjoyment we get by using the social media. Third, fear of missing out, as everyone is using social media, or you can also call it as the peer pressure. Okay, there are some reason for which the usage of mobile is increasing in children's in particular as well as in the total population. Okay, so these were the two PYQs. There was one PYQ in 2013 as well, where it has asked what are the social medias. Okay, so these are the PYQ. Now we will discuss the news. Okay, we have already discussed the context. The context is from December 10th of 2025. That means next 10th. Social media in Australia are banned. They have specifically named out some social media such as YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and other social medias such as X as well. Okay, and they have left out some social media such as WhatsApp and YouTube Kids. So these can be used by the children. And who will be responsible to impose this ban? Not the children, not the parents, but the social medias. Okay, so basically these platforms will be responsible that there should not be any child below the age of 16 using their platforms. There will be many methods to know the age of the children so that they can ban their account. Okay, so this is major development here, and there will be fine of around 50 million Australian dollars on the social media companies if children are found to using their accounts. And what is the reason behind it? That Australia has said that we have conducted a study and around 96% of children from age of 10 to 15 years are using social media. That means out of 100 children, 96 children are using social media extensively. The same study has pointed out that 7 out of 10 children has seen or have come across a harmful content. These are the major findings of study before implementing these bans. Now, what is the condition in India? How we are tackling? So, if you have read the news, the DPDP Act and DPDP rules, Digital Personal Data Protection Act and rules have come into the force last week. Whenever you are reading a topic which is there at the global level, please connect it with the India. UPSC will ask the question while connecting the development to the India. So in these rules and in this act, how we are protecting children. So for children, there should be permission from guardian, parents. There won't be any direct or the individual marketing for children. That means there should not be targeted advertisement for the children's. Whenever you are using Instagram, suppose you have searched something on Safari or Chrome, you will see the ad related to your requirement. So government through this act has banned those targeted advertisement for the children's. Then we have the 67B of IT rules of 2000. Okay. Under this, transmitting any sexually explicit content is punishable. Okay, it is there in section 67B of IT Act of 2000. Okay, so these are some provision where we try to protect children in India. Now, let us move to the other part of this discussion. So, the concerns regarding social media usage in children's. First of all, the mental health of the children who are using screen for a lot of time get disturbed. They will have issues such as anxiety, depression, as well as low self-esteem. Secondly, it lead to deterioration in physical health. It is now often seen that children are forced to go and play on the playgrounds. The situation is changing. Before, parents used to stop that children should not go out of their home, and now parents are forcing their children, said that they should go out and play in the playgrounds. And what is the reason behind it? Because they are too busy in their phones. And it will lead to serious issues such as sedentary behavior, eating disorder, and unattainable beauty ideals. When we were talking about the study of Australia, they have found out that 1 in 10 children try to mimic how the older people behave or dress. That is also one of the side effects of using social media. Thirdly, there is less social development as the human interactions are very low, and it will lead to social isolation, strained family relation, because they found a escape by using social media. They are more interested in using social media or talking on social media rather having one-to-one interaction with the human. And it will lead to their less development while they will be discussing or while they will be pointing out their points in the public. Okay, lastly, there are other issues which are regarding the online safety, such as cyberbullying, harming content, as well as the online sexual predators. So these are some concerns regarding the social media usage in children. Now coming to the negative side of the ban. First of all, it will lead to limit development of the digital skills. They won't use digital platform in such a manner, or their usage will be reduced, so there will be less development of digital skills. And there is also a issue that how we are ascertaining that the children will get maturity at the age of 16, as some children get maturity early and other children can get mature at the later stage, because everyone development process is different from the other person. So how we are defining that at the age of 16 they will get the maturity to use social media? Secondly, they will try to use the other platform which are not banned as well as which are not safe, which will lead to further deterioration of the condition. as these websites won't be there in the purview of the government. So they will use the patterns such as dark web, which are way more harmful. So these are the some negative effect of the ban. Whenever you are writing about the positive impact or the negative impact, your answer should be holistic. Okay, you should also talk about the negative impact. You should be also talking about the positive impact. Now we will talk about the other method which can be used to reduce the social media usage in children. First of all, that is restricted usage. So we have to allow them to use social media only for educational as well as the learning platforms. There can be special platform which focus on children such as YouTube Kids. And there is also Instagram for teens. Such platform can be there which are specially catering to the children's. There can be also adoption of best practices such as digital de-addiction. So there will be some hours or days where there won't be any usage of digital platforms. So these are the some approaches that can be taken to reduce the usage of social media in children. So this was all about the second news. We have already discussed the PYQ related to this news. So the next news is about the Chief Justice of India. And it is there in news as the new justice has been sworn in. In this news, we will be learning about provision related to Chief Justice of India appointment as well as the appointment of other Supreme Court judges as well as the removal of Supreme Court judges. And it is related to GS paper 2 which talks about structure, organization and functioning of executive and judiciary. So let us discuss this news. Context we have briefly talked about. Let us discuss it again. So Justice Surya Kant has sworn in as the 53rd Chief Justice of India. So before moving further, let us discuss about the appointment process of CJI. CJI stands for Chief Justice of India. So basically, what is the procedure? So the ongoing or the CGI who is going out will recommend one judge to the Ministry of Law. He or she will recommend his or her successor. And Ministry of Law will forward that to the Prime Minister. Then Prime Minister will advise the President and President will appoint the Chief Justice of India. Okay. So that is the basic procedure. And this recommendation of successor is not a random process. It is decided based upon the seniority convention. It means the judge who have worked or served as the judge of Supreme Court for the longest time, he or she will be recommended as the next CGI. So this convention was not taken place in the past for the 3 times. Okay. But after the first or second and third judge's case, this convention has been followed regularly. Okay, so you have to read about the 3 judges case. First one was in 1981, then 1993, then the 1998. Okay, these are the 3 judge cases. Okay, that is also the evolution of collegium system in India. There is one PYQ related to this development that we will be discussing after the news. Okay, and constitutional basis for appointment of CGI is given under Article 124 Clause 2. So now let us move to the appointment of other Supreme Court judges. So they are basically appointed based on the recommendation of Collegium. And Collegium consists of Chief Justice of India and 4 senior most judges. And what is the eligibility criteria to become a Supreme Court judge? First of all, he or she should be the citizen of India. That is a must. Then he or she must have been first a judge of High Court for 5 years, or an advocate for High Court for 10 years, or a distinguished jurist in the opinion of President. So basically, if President believes that someone is a distinguished jurist, he or she can be appointed as Supreme Court judge. Please note here that there is no minimum age to get appointment as Supreme Court judge. There is no minimum age. There can be a question regarding these facts. So please be very clear about the appointment process, collegium system, and the criteria required to get appointment as Supreme Court judge. Okay. Now talking about tenure, he or she, the Supreme Court judge, hold office till the 65 years of age. And there is a special clause that a person who has been judge of the Supreme Court is debarred from practicing in any court of law or before any other authority in India. That means when a Supreme Court judge retired, he or she cannot practice in any court of law in India. That is a special condition. Now let us understand about the removal of Supreme Court judge. First of all, the ground for removal. They can be removed only on the ground of proven misbehavior or incapacity. And these terms are not defined in the Constitution. These terms are not defined in the Constitution. Secondly, the President can remove a judge only after both houses of Parliament passes a special resolution. Okay, let us understand here. Firstly, 50 members from the Rajya Sabha or the 100 members from the Lok Sabha can pass a resolution, removal resolution, and it will be presented to the Lok Sabha Speaker or the Rajya Sabha Chairman. Okay, and the Speaker and the Chairman can reject that resolution. It will end then and there. And suppose he or she accept this resolution, then they have to form a committee of 3 members which will look into the allegation against the Supreme Court judge. And when the report will come, then there has to be passage of a motion, special resolution in both the houses. And that required special majority. That is total majority of the house as well as majority of 2/3 present and voting. That is the meaning of special majority here. And both the houses should pass the resolution in the same session. It should not be there that in the one house, suppose in Lok Sabha it is passed in one session and in the Rajya Sabha it is passed in the other session. The resolution should be passed in the same session in the both house. Lastly, the procedure for removal of judges is elaborated in Judges Inquiry Act of 1968. Okay, so this was the procedure for removal of Supreme Court judges. Now let us move forward and discuss the PYQ. So first PYQ from the prelims examination is directly related to the discussion we had in the last slide. And the question is, consider the following statement. Statement 1, the motion to impeach a judge of the Supreme Court of India cannot be rejected by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha as per the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968. We have already discussed that he or she can reject. Secondly, the Constitution of India defines and gives detail of what constitute incapacity and proven misbehavior of the judges of Supreme Court of India. We have also discussed this. It is a wrong statement. Third option, the detail of the process of impeachment of the judges of Supreme Court of India are given in the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968. It is an correct statement. Then fourth, if the motion for the impeachment of a judge is taken up for the voting, the law requires that the motion to be backed by each house of the parliament and supported by a majority of total membership of that house and by not less than 2/3 of the total members of that house present and voting. We have discussed this as well. So this is also an correct statement. Third is also an correct statement. Then answer will be C, 3 and 4. There is one PYQ from the mains examination of 2025. And the question is, discuss the evolution of collegium system in India. Critically examine the advantages and disadvantages of the system in the appointment of the judges of Supreme Court of India and that of USA. Here you have to talk about 3 judges cases. And what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages in comparison to the appointment in the USA. So this was a mains PYQ, and this was all about the third news for today. Now let us move to the fourth news. And the fourth news is that the G20 Summit of 2025 has been concluded in South Africa. It is important for your prelims examination as well as for your mains examination. So we will have discussion about the G20, what are the major outcome in the recent summit. It is related to GS paper 2, which talks about bilateral, regional and global grouping and agreement involving India. So now let us move to the news. We have already discussed the context. The context is that the recent G20 summit has been concluded. Let us note the 2-3 very key important points here or facts. First of all, it was first ever G20 summit held on the African soil. It was the first ever G20 summit held in Africa, overall African continent. So it is an extreme statement, it become very important. Secondly, what was the theme of this summit? The theme was solidarity, equality and sustainability. Why I am saying that theme was important? Because if you see the last year prelims examination, they have directly asked about the theme of the last BRICS summit. Okay. So there are chances that UPSC can ask the themes of the summit as well. So the 2 major points here are that it was the first ever G20 summit held on the African soil and the theme of it was solidarity, equality and sustainability. Secondly, it concluded with the declaration despite the US boycott. So it ended with a declaration despite the US boycott. Now let us understand about this G20 grouping. Okay. So in 1975, There was G6, which was later converted into G7. That means there were some important countries economically which were deciding their policies so that they can move sustainably. But in 1994, there was Mexican crisis. In 1997-98, there was East Asian crisis. So these countries observed that these countries are there which are developing at a fast pace, and if there is any economic setback there, it is impacting the economy of the globe. So at 1999, there was a establishment of G20 countries or the G20 group. Now it is very important to know about the members of G20. First of all, G7 was there. It includes countries such as France, Canada, Italy, Japan, Germany, United States of America, and UK. Then Russia. Then Argentina, Australia, Brazil, China, European Union, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, and Turkey. Why I am emphasizing more on G20 countries? This African Union was added when India was the president of G20. Okay, so there are basically 19 countries and 2 economic organizations, that is African Union and European Union. Okay, so there was question directly on the members of G20. So you can draw such type of diagram where you can have G7 countries, then G8 countries, then G20 countries. You can use a world map as well where you can point out the countries and the members of G20. Okay, so this was brief about the G20 as a group. It was established in 1999. Firstly, it was meeting of finance ministers. So after 2008 economic slowdown in America, it converted into that the head of state will get involved and they will meet in the G20 group. So this was basic about G20 as a group. Now let us move further and discuss about the key highlight of the recent declaration. First of all, it talks about disaster resilience and debt sustainability. What is disaster resilience? So disaster resilience, there was a direct question on the disaster resilience in the mains examinations as well. So disaster resilience is the capacity of the people or the community or the state governments to adapt and move forward with a plan which can resist the disaster, or after the disaster they can grow effectively. That is the basic meaning of disaster resilience. Then debt sustainability, that the debt should be in the sustainable format. Okay. And it talks about that people-centered disaster response should be there and support for the debt burden countries, which will lead to debt sustainability. Secondly, it talks about climate and energy transition. Everything is connected. If you talk about this year MPI, Multi-Poverty Dimensional Index, it has talked about that poverty is connected with the climate change. Okay. That was the major theme of this year MPI, that poverty is connected with the climate change. And what does the declaration talk about? It talk about that there should be endorsement of G20 critical minerals net framework, which is a voluntary framework, as well as they have reaffirmed the Paris 1.5 degrees Celsius and global biodiversity goals. Thirdly, they have talked about the institutional reforms. They have said that there should be UNSC reforms as well as the multilateral cooperation should be rooted in the spirit of Ubuntu. That means brotherhood. Lastly, this Declaration has reaffirmed commitment on empowerment of women, as well as it talked about tackling terrorism. Whenever you are reading such groups such as G20, G7 or ISA, you should learn about their effectiveness. Because UPSC can ask about critically examine this G20 group, or what is the effectiveness of G20 group till now. Then you will talk about its significance as well as what are the shortcomings. Significance such as it represent a 67% of total population of world. It represent almost 85% of global GDP and 75% of global trade. So they can significantly tackle any economic crisis. There are some limitations as well, as more than 90% of countries are left out from the group. So there is less representation globally. Or there are other limitations as well, that the judgment or the decisions are made on the ad hoc manner. So these are some limitations. You also know about the significance. There was IBA. Okay, such in relevance and significance you should know about. Okay, not only for G20 but for the other groups as well. Now moving further, it is the major ideas proposed by the India in this summit. First of all, there should be a global traditional knowledge repository. What is the meaning of traditional knowledge? So basically, traditional knowledge is knowledge which is transferred from one generation to another. It can be a practice, it can be a skill that is transferred from one generation to the other. So India has recommended and proposed that there should be a global traditional knowledge repository. We have in India a traditional knowledge digital library, but we have recommended for a global traditional knowledge repository. Secondly, India has proposed about Africa skill multipliers. What is there in this? That it aimed to create 1 million certified trainers, and these trainers will improve the skills of other Africans, so that there will be overall improvement in the skilling of the Africa as a continent. Thirdly, India has said there should be a global healthcare response team and G20 healthcare expert to respond to the global health crisis. That means if there is a global health crisis, there should be a G20 healthcare experts to respond that crisis. Thirdly, India has talked about open satellite data partnership, so that we can provide the data from the satellite for agriculture, fisheries, disaster management. That is for overall development of the globe. Then we have talked about critical mineral circularity to promote recycling as well innovation and supply chain security. You might be knowing about the banning of export of critical minerals by China. Okay, that's why India is saying that there should be critical mineral circularity initiative. Lastly, we have talked about countering drugs terror nexus. So these were the some proposals proposed by India at the summit. So this was all about this news. Let us move to the PYQ related to this news. So both are PYQ are from prelims. One is from 2022 and another one is from 2020. So in 2022, the question was with reference to G20 common framework. Consider the following statement. First, it is an initiative endorsed by G20 together with the Paris Club. Please read about Paris Club. It is a group of countries which provide debt. Secondly, it is an initiative to support low-income countries with unsustainable debt. So both the statement here are correct and the answer will be C, both 1 and 2. Second question is from 2020 and I won't answer it. Please look into the countries and try to answer yourself. It is a very easy question. The question is, in which one of the following groups are all the 4 countries members of G20? Option A, Argentina, Mexico, South Africa and Turkey. Option B, Australia, Canada, Malaysia and New Zealand. Option C, Brazil, Iran, Saudi Arabia and Vietnam. D, Indonesia, Japan, Singapore and South Korea. Please look into the countries of G20. It has 19 countries and 2 organizations. So basically it should be called as G21 now, but it is G20 only. So please solve this question. We will move to the next news. The next news is related to the volcanic eruption in Ethiopia. In this news, we will be learning about the reason why it has erupted and we will be learning about the volcanoes at all. Volcanoes as a topic. It is related to GS paper 1 as well as GS paper 3. In GS paper 1, there is mentioned in the syllabus that important geophysical phenomena such as volcanic activity. In GS paper 3, there is mention of disaster management. Now let us move to the main discussion. First of all, we have briefly discussed the context and it is Ethiopia's long dormant Haile Gubi volcano which has erupted after 12,000 years. Okay, so whenever you are reading such type of news, you should be very curious to know about the reason behind it, as well as to know about the Ethiopia as a country. Ethiopia is there in Africa. It is very near to Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, but it does not have any port or it does not share boundaries with the ocean. That means it is a landlocked country. And why there has been a volcanic activity here? We will understand the mechanism of volcano in the later part of the discussion. Let us first understand why there was a volcanic eruption. So basically, this is African plate and this is Somali plate. So Somali plate is moving away from the African plate. And this volcano is located somewhere here at the tri-point of the plates. Another plate here is the Arabian plate. These plates are moving away from one another. So that's why there is an eruption of volcano. We will be understanding about the mechanism of volcano in detail at the later stage. Here, know about these plates, African plate, Somali plate and the Arabian plate. Now let us understand the volcanic eruption. So definitions are very important to write answers in your examination because they help you in writing the introduction of your answer. So it is the expulsion of gases, rock, fragment and molten lava from within the earth through a vent onto the earth's surface. So lava is the another form of magma. When lava is below the earth's surface, it is known as magma. When it comes out of the earth's surface, it is known as the lava. Okay, and earth mantle contains a weakened zone called as asthenosphere from where the molten rock materials called the magma escape out. So this is the basic definition of volcanoes. Now we will understand the mechanism and type of volcanoes. Okay, so key eruption material. First one is lava, that is the converted form of magma, and the other material which reaches the ground are pyroclastic debris, volcanic bomb, ash and dust, and gases such as nitrogen compound and sulfur compound. In the recent volcano of Ethiopia, there is a large outcome of acids and sulfur compound. They have shoot up to 10 to 12 kilometers, and they are moving towards India, as well as they have moved out from India. They are now in the China as well. So their direction was from west to east. It has disturbed the airlines. Okay. Now coming to the types of volcanoes. First of all, let us decide or take into account type of volcanoes based on the lavas. First one is acidic. It is a thicker with high silica content, and silica is very less fluid. If there will be high silica, then it won't go far away from the cone. Suppose this is the cone and the lava is coming out which has high silica content, it won't move away from the vent of the volcano. That will lead to a steep-sided volcano, also known as the cone volcanoes or the composite volcanoes. It is given in your NCERTs. Secondly, basic or basaltic volcanoes. They have low silica content. That means they can flow to a large distance. Similarly, if there is the flow of less silica, it will go further away. In the basic or the basaltic type, that will lead to a gentle slope in the volcanoes, and it will known as the sealed volcanoes. These are two type of volcanoes. There are other type of volcanoes as well, such as caldera volcanoes, flood basalt provinces volcanoes, and the mid ridges volcanoes. So please understand here, there are two or three types of plate movements. One is convergent, another one is divergent, and third one is transboundary. So in transboundary, there will not be any formation of volcanoes. But in convergent and in divergent, there will be the formation of volcanoes. Let us understand it with the diagram. Suppose there are two plates and they are moving towards each other. So this is known as convergent plate boundaries. One will be subsiding below the another plate, and it will lead to the destruction and the formation of molten magma that will rise and lead to the volcanoes. Secondly, in another type, there is divergent plate boundaries. One plate is moving away from the another plate. That's why there will be rise of magma from the below, and there will be volcanoes here as well. So these are the formation of volcanoes. We have talked about moving of Somali and Arabian plate from the African plate when we were discussing the context of this news. Okay, and the types we have already discussed about the cone or the composite volcanoes, sealed volcanoes. Then caldera volcanoes are the volcanoes which exploit, or there is expulsion of the lava with such a force that the upper part, this part, will get disturbed and it will be removed away. Then there will be the formation of caldera. It is a landform. You might have also read about caldera lakes as well. Then there is flood basalt provinces. Flood basically means rust. Basalt is a type of rock. Then provinces means an area. That means there is lava at a large area with basalt. And the example of here is Deccan Trap. Then there are mid-ridge volcanoes as well, where the two plates are moving away in the ocean. Then there will be the formation of volcanoes there as well. So this is the basic about volcanoes. In the next session, we will be learning about the earthquakes. Now moving further, let us understand about major consequences of volcanic eruption. There are positive as well as the negative. Positive, it acts as a source of obtaining direct information of the interior of the earth. We will learn about the interiors of the earth. Secondly, it is source of geothermal energy. Thirdly, there will be temporary cooling of atmosphere, as there will be the layer of ashes, it won't allow the sunlight to enter the atmosphere to the ground level. Then there are negative impacts as well, such as air pollution and acid rain, as there are sulfur compounds in it. It will also accompanied by disasters like earthquake. First of all, volcano in itself can be converted into disaster. Then it also accompanied by disasters such as earthquake. And lastly, there are loss of property and life as well. So these are the consequences of volcanic eruption. Now we will discuss PYQ related to this news. So PYQ is from 2018 prelims examination, and the question is, consider the following statement. First, the Barren Island volcano is an active volcano located in Indian territory. So basically, based of type of volcano, based on the frequency of eruption, there are three types: active, dormant, and extinct. Okay. Active are basically which erupt regularly. Okay. Secondly, Barren Island lies about 140 km east of Great Nicobar. First of all, let us avoid this statement. Okay. We can avoid this statement for now. Then also we can get the answer. Third statement is, the last time the Barren Island volcano erupted was in 1991. If you are reading newspaper, it has erupted recently, and also it has erupted in 2017. That is the importance of newspaper and the current affairs. So the question is asked in 2018. So third statement become wrong. And if you look at the option, it is given in D, C and B as well. So B, C and D will get eliminated and the answer will be A, one only. Even if you don't know the second statement, that is Barren Island lies about 140 km east of Great Nicobar, if you don't know that information as well, if you are reading newspaper continuously, reading current affairs, you will be knowing about that the Barren Island volcano has erupted recently. You will mark out these three options and the answer will be A, one only. Then there is one PYQ from the mains examination. And the question is, why are the world's fold mountain system located along the margins of continents? You will be reading about the plate tectonics. Then you will be knowing about the fold mountains. When we will be covering about earthquake in the next session, we will be dealing with the fold mountains of the Himalayas. Okay, we will be solving this PYQ in the next session. Okay, but let us read the question first. Why are the world fold mountain system located along the margins of continent? Bring out the association between the global distribution of fold mountains and earthquake and volcanoes. Okay, so these are the PYQs related to this news. Now let us move to the last main news for today. And the last main news is that UNFCCC 30th Conference of the Parties, COP30s, has been concluded. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Okay, it has been concluded and it is related to GS paper 3 environment. In this, we will be learning about its major outcome. Okay, let us move to the discussion of this news. So, it has concluded with BLM package. Okay, let us first learn about where this BLM is there. It is there at the mouth of Amazon River. So there is rainforest there. There are forest dwellers there or indigenous people. That's why this place, Belem, was chosen by Brazil. Okay. Please know or please learn about the first COP as well of the UNFCCC where it was held. Okay, now coming to this package, it has launched two new initiatives. One is Global Implementation Accelerator. So it was recently launched and it is a 2-year program to bridge the gap between nation climate plans and the 1.5 degrees pathway. So basically, we want to achieve that global warming should not be more than 1.5 degrees, and there are national action climate plans as well. So how that bridge or how that gap can be bridged between that national climate plan and the 1.5 degrees pathway, that is there in Global Implementation Accelerator. Then they have launched the Belem mission to 1.5. 1.5 is the 1.5 degrees Celsius. And it talk about an action-oriented platform under the COP 29 to 20, COP 31 Troika to foster international cooperation across mitigation, adaptation and investment. Here, please learn about mitigation and adaptation. What is mitigation and what is adaptation? So suppose due to climate change, there is rise in the sea level. So we will construct the boundaries with the help of bricks that will come under adaptation, that we are physically creating barriers so that the sea level rise does not disturb the mainland. That comes under the adaptation. And what about mitigation? If we try to solve the causes of the sea rise, that will come under the mitigation. Be very clear. We will be talking about adaptation a lot in the further discussion. So what is the basic meaning of mitigation and adaptation? Mitigation is solving the causes of the climate change, and adaptation is adapting to the result of that climate change. Okay. These were the two new initiatives which was launched in the COP 30. Okay. Now moving further, the other decisions, and other decision is Global Multi-Row decision. It is an high level political level adopted by parties, and it include scaling up of climate finance. By whom this climate finance should be scaled up? By the developed countries for developing and least developing countries. It is part of Article 9.1 of Paris Climate. Please interlink the information, then only it will become easy for you to understand the topic. Under Article 9.1 of Paris Agreement, the developed countries are mandated to provide climate finance to developing as well as the least developed countries. Secondly, they talk about doubling adaptation finance by 2025 and tripling it by 2035. So here they mean that the climate change is already happening and we have to adapt to that climate change. So for that, there should be double in the adaptation fund by 2025. That means by this year. And there should be a triple in the adaptation finance by 2035. Thirdly, they talked about just transition mechanism. What is just transition? Okay, suppose I am using a car which is based on petrol. And today there is an announcement by the government that all the citizens will use vehicles of electronics. So it will be a very sudden decision. First of all, my car which is based on petrol will be getting extinct, or it will be getting non-useful for me. Then I have to take new electric car which will be financial burden for me. That is the meaning of just transition, that the transition to renewable energy should not be abrupt. It should be in a very adaptable way. So they have talked about just transition mechanism. They also provide two roadmaps, that is the forest and climate roadmap to halt and reverse the deforestation and transition away from the fossil fuels. Basically, they have provided roadmap for these two things. Okay. Now let us move to the next part of the discussion and talks about the other initiatives. Okay. First of all, they have talked about fostering investable national implementation initiative, and it aims to unlock 1 trillion in adaptation project pipelines. So in the last slide, we have talked about doubling and tripling of adaptation finance. So for that, there is an initiative, that is fostering investable national implementation initiative. Secondly, they talked about BLM health action. Okay, and it will be the first global initiative targeting climate related health threat. If you are staying in the NCR region, you might be noticing that the climate or the pollution in this region is affecting the health. That means the climate is related to the health of the people. That's why it's talk about the BLM Health Action Plan. Thirdly, it talks about the Tropical Forest Forever Facility. As we were discussing the context, we were talking about the location of BLM. Okay, we were talking about why and where it was chosen. Okay, so that's why it talks about Tropical Forest Forever Facility. I think under this, around $4 will be provided for 1 hectare protection. And it also includes the Gender Action Plan, which advances gender responsive budgeting and finance and promote the leadership of indigenous, Afro-descent and rural women. So these are the some initiatives which are there under COP30 action agenda. So this was all about this news. Let us discuss one PYQ related to this news. It is not directly related to this news, but you can infer from this question that what kind of question can be asked in such news. So the question is from 2025 mains examination, paper 3. The question is, write a review on India's climate commitment under the Paris Agreement of 2015, and mention how these have been further strengthened in COP26 of 2021. It was an odd question because they have asked about a COP which held before 4 years. Okay, and in this direction, how has the first nationally determined contribution intended by India been updated in 2022? So this was the question in 2025. So after this, we will move to the quick update for today. In today's session, we will be covering 8 quick updates. So the first quick update is about Article 240. And what is the context here? The context is that Home Ministry has clarified that no bill to change Chandigarh's status will be introduced in the upcoming winter session. So there was a talk that government will bring an amendment, will change the status of the Chandigarh. Okay, and this will open the door to an independent administrator in the Union Territory of Chandigarh. Presently, the Punjab governor is the administrator of Chandigarh. So here we should learn about Article 240 because it has seen when some article is there in news that can be asked in the prelims examination. And the example of is Article 142 was asked in the prelims examination. So what does Article 240 of Constitution says? So it grants the power to the President to make regulation for the peace, progress and effective governance for certain union territories. And examples are Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. So this was about Article 240. Let us move to the next quick update. So next quick update is about Gavi, which stands for Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. And what is the context? The context is that the Gavi with UNICEF have announced a new agreement to increase the accessibility of R21 or Matrix M malaria vaccine. Here there can be a direct question about the development as well. They can ask about why R21 or Matrix M malaria was there in the news. Okay, now let us learn about the Gavi. So first of all, it was established in year 2000 as a global public and private partnership to improve vaccine in the low income countries. Okay, and India is a member of Gavi. That's why it become more important. And recently, USA has pulled out from funding Gavi. So it has been noticed that USA is pulling from the major global forums. And on that, one is Gavi. Its mission, it aims to immunize children against the deadly diseases and strengthen national vaccination system. And it has impacted around 1.2 million children. Okay. It has also talked about market shaping and negotiate prices and uses innovative financing tools such as International Finance Facility for Immunization. Under this facility only, these vaccine will become accessible. Okay, this was all about the second quick update. Moving to the third quick update. Third quick update is about uranium-238. And the context here is that a recent study has revealed that the presence of U-238 is there in breast milk of lactating mother in Bihar. This is an concerning news because it will impact the newborn child. In this news, let us understand about uranium-238. So basically, it is a naturally occurring uranium, which is 238 and is the most abundant uranium isotope in the nature, forming 99.3 of natural uranium. The remaining is 0.7%, that is uranium-235, which is used in power for making nuclear power as well as for making nuclear bombs. Okay, so this is an isotope of uranium, that is U-38, then that is about 99.3 in the natural uranium. Then its occurrence, it is found in soil, rock, groundwater and drinking water under natural condition. Now let us discuss its toxicity. Basically, it is more harmful for its chemical toxicity rather than radioactivity, as it is an heavy metal which affects the kidneys of humans. Now talking about its safe limit, that World Health Organization has a provisional limit of 30 microgram per liter for uranium in drinking water. There was one previous year question which was related to mercury, and it was stated that there is no safe limit for mercury, and that was a correct statement. But if that is a statement related to uranium 238, that there is a no safe limit, then that statement will become wrong, as there is a safe limit for uranium. So this was about this quick update. Let us move to the next quick update. So next quick update is about Article 51 of UN Charter. In this news, we will be learning about Article 51 as well as the Article 2 of the UN Charter. And the context is that as countries like Russia in the Ukraine war and Israel in the Gaza conflict has invoked the self-defense to justify aggression. And how this justification is there and what are the provision related to that, we will be learning in this news. So basically, following the World War II, UN Charter legally obliged state to refrain from the threat or use of force. It was there in Article 2. But there was a catch. And what was the catch? The catch was that Article 51 recognized the right to self-defense, which was originally intended as a exception. That exceptions are being used by states such as Russia and Israel. There are two interpretations of it. First one is restrictive, another one is expansive. Under restrictive, the right of self-defense arises only if there is an attack. That is restrictive. But there is another interpretation as well, that is expansive. That means that self-defense can arise in the response to an imminent threat. That means they will consider that there is a threat from state or non-state, then also they can use this Article 51 and they can declare war or use force. So this was about Article 2, Article 51 and the interpretation of Article 51 of UN Charter. So this was all about this quick update. Now let us move to the next news. Next news is related to Lake Urmia or Armia, I think. So the context is that Iran has attempted cloud seeding over Lake Urmia basin to induce rainfall amid the country's worst drought in the decade. So there are two information. First of all, that this lake is there in Iran. Iran is going through drought and they have tried cloud seeding. Even Delhi government recently tried cloud seeding for Delhi pollution, for tackling Delhi pollution. So there are many usage of cloud seeding. One of this is that. And now coming to the Lake Urmia. So it is located in northwestern Iran and fled by the Jerine and Semine river. If you look into the previous year questions, you will also find one question which is related to Aral Sea. And it was also devastated by the usage of this water of the Aral Sea. Similarly, we are reading about this lake. And it has declined its water more than 90%. Okay. And it will have environmental impacts as well. And it is the largest lake in the Middle East. Largest lake. In the Middle East, it is a salt lake and it is the world 6th largest salt lake. And when talking about its protection status, it is protected under Ramsar site as well as the UNESCO's biosphere reserves as well. So the next quick update is about Operation Pavan and why it is there in news. It is there in news because Chief of Army Staff has paid homage to the martyrs of Operation Pavan for the first time. So what was the Operation Pavan? Okay, so basically it was launched in 1987 by Indian peacekeeping force after the India-Sri Lanka Accord of 1987. There was Operation Cactus as well. It was different from it. That was launched in 1988. It is related to Maldives. And Operation Pavan is related to Sri Lanka. And what was its aim? It aims to disarm militant group, particularly the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam in Sri Lanka. Okay, so this was about the Operation Pavan. So the next quick update is about Commonwealth, and the context here is that India has successfully secured the hosting right for the centenary Commonwealth Games in 2030. We have also hosted the Commonwealth Game in 2010 previously in Delhi. Okay, now this Commonwealth Game will be held in Ahmedabad in 2030. So let us understand about Commonwealth. It has originated in 1926 Imperial Conference, where Britain and the dominions of Britain agreed that they were all equal members of community within the British empires. That's why the monarch head of Britain is the titular head of the Commonwealth. But it is not that only the countries which were the part of the British Empire can be the part of Commonwealth. Countries such as Rwanda, Mozambique are the part of Commonwealth, and they were not under the British Empire. Okay, now, so basically London Declaration laid the foundation for the modern Commonwealth, stated that Republic and other countries could be part of the Commonwealth voluntarily. And there are around 56 countries under Commonwealth. So this was all about Commonwealth. Now let us move to the next news. The next news is about Vikram 1. And the context is that the Prime Minister has unveiled Vikram 1, which is India's new private orbital class launch vehicle. So in this news, we will learn about Vikram 1. And it is developed by Skyroot Aerospace, which is a private company. And it is developed to launch satellite in low Earth orbit. Its distance is around 100 to 2000 kilometers from the Earth, and to serve small satellite and ride-share mission. And it will be also there for sun synchronous orbit. Sun synchronous orbits are orbit where sun is visible throughout. Okay, and its propulsion, that it has 4-stage engine, that there are 3 solid based engines, and 4th stage it will be based on liquid. And it has used simple technology so that the cost can be minimum, and it is designed based on 3D structure as well as the carbon fibers. So this was all about the quick updates for today. To read further about current affairs initiative of ours, you can move to the digital current affairs, where you can solve the smart quizzes as well and can read other initiative of us as well. So thank you and all the best for your preparation.